The best performing monthly dividend ETF on the NASDAQ just changed. We have seen a really big shift in the market over the last couple of months, and I have made some videos on it, but I wanted to address how these shifting markets impact our favorite no NAV erosion ETFs. So in this video, I'm going to showcase the old top performer, and we're going to look at the new top performer, and I'm curious if you guys hold this NASDAQ ETF. We are using a tool called the Fear and Greed Index, and this is basically a market sentiment tool, showcasing what the overall opinion on the market is at the time. So right now we have fallen into the Fear Index, which is why a lot of creators are putting videos about market collapse, market crashing, and so on and so forth. And when it's opposite, when things are doing really well, we'll hit the greed portion. And so it's funny to me because we have seen some crazy shifts recently. In the last week, it was neutral, but it was at 48. Currently, it's at 42. The previous close was 37. So people were very fearful at the last close of the market. And 1 month ago, it was still neutral. And 1 year ago, it was still neutral. But it does shift back and forth pretty rapidly, which is something that I think showcases investors are worried, but then also greedy, and back and forth. And the market sentiment can change at any point. This is not necessarily just a tool that you should use and go, oh, there's fear in the market, let me buy all these things. It just shows the overall sentiment of the market. But I did want to mention we are in that fear point, and things do have a big impact on this. Political climates, escalations in warfare or potential wars, and so on and so forth. So I have put 5 options in here to showcase what has been happening in the market and how different funds can perform differently depending on what's going on, right? Some of these are a little bit safer. Some perform better when the markets are hotter. And in the last couple of months, we've seen a bit of a shift. So I have 4 no NAV erosion ETFs that I really like. And then we have QDTE, which, no offense to QDTE, it just doesn't erode the NAV because the distribution rate is so high. But I wanted to put it in here as well. It is a weekly payer from Roundhill. So starting off, we have QQQI, which is at almost 9 billion in AUM. And for a long time, this one was the top performer. This was the king of NASDAQ ETFs, in my book at least. Then we have TDAQ, which is newer. So there are some caveats to that I will point out, but it has been performing very well since inception. Then we have GPIQ, which is a different strategy from both TDAQ and QQQI. It has more of a focus on growth while still providing a higher yield. I believe 6 to 7%, but vastly different than the 14% from QQQI and 17% that TDAQ provides. Then we have JEPQ, which is known as being a bit of a safer investment as well, less on the yield, a little bit of growth, but overall in a down market, JEPQ typically does thrive a bit more than the others. And then we have QDTE, massive yields, large payouts, a bit of issue with the NAV in my opinion, but I thought I'd put it on here because it is important. It also is a zero DTE strategy, but again, this one being from Roundhill. So I'm going to slide down here and I want to showcase, we're going to start with price return for each of these funds. And here, I'm just going to write off QDTE because again, it suffers from NAV erosion pretty badly. QQQI in the last year is down 3.5%. TDAQ is up 0.45, but here's the caveat, it hasn't been trading the entire time. So it's not really fair to compare it, but I will do a different portion where I showcase just the time that TDAQ has been trading, and that'll give more of a fair comparison. But I wanted to showcase the ones that have been trading for longer a year first. GPIQ is up 2.41%, which is very, very interesting to me. JEPQ is actually down 0.6%. So all of these have traded relatively similarly, but we do have a bit of almost a 4% swing in the growth comparison between GPIQ and QQQI. When we convert this to our total return, everything shifts. First of all, QDTE becomes the second best performer, and that is why I did include it in this video, because sometimes even these funds that do suffer from rough NAV erosion can be a pretty good performer. QQQI is up 11.34%. TDAQ is up 8%, but again, have to write this one out for a little bit because it hasn't been trading as long. GPIQ is up 13.74%, and JEPQ is up 11.1%. Now here's the shift. We have seen GPIQ become the best performer. It has been near the top for the last couple of months, but since we've been in a bit of a rockier area with some tech sell-offs and whatnot, it now is outperforming a lot of the others. And so we're going to break into the strategy as to why this is and what makes GPIQ different than QQQI, then TDAQ, then JEPQ, and so on. And so we'll see. I want to know, do you guys hold GPIQ? And if not, are you interested in buying it as we see the market get a little bit rockier? Goldman Sachs is a very popular company. They're huge, right, in the finance industry, but I want to showcase what they do differently with GPIQ compared to something like QQQI, because that's why we have seen GPIQ outperform in the recent couple of months. I mean, they put all these reasons to consider investing, and it's true. It's going to pay out monthly income. That's the goal anyway. It's exposure with lower volatility, a little bit lower income based off that, but it also is a different strategy. It's relatively unique. You can see all the important info. It's a low expense ratio, very low, I will say. Net expense ratio of 0.29 compared to something like QQQI. I think it's 0.68. It's less than half of QQQI. And performance for the fund has been good. So let's talk about why this is. So the way that QQQI works compared to GPIQ is GPIQ depends heavily on the strategists that are deciding the calls, everything about the fund, right? So GPIQ has the ability to shift the amount of options they're writing within the fund. And so they actually have it's roughly 25 to 75% where they'll shift to NASDAQ exposure. And what that means is if you're writing calls fully on the portfolio, you'll get more income. If you're not doing that, say you have 50-50, you're going to get half that income, but you have half the exposure to the underlying asset, meaning it can grow if the underlying is growing and shrink if the underlying is shrinking. So it's a dynamic approach. And the ability for them to adjust in this market showcases like they're going to be focusing more on getting that income rather than the growth, because if we do see a substantial pullback or the market trading sideways, that's where income funds typically outperform because you're able to generate income and in the same time span, you're getting distributions. Whereas if the stock or underlying is just going up and down, but not trending in an upward way, you're going to get more from distributions because they're not going to pay out distributions if you're just 100% going into growth. So I hope that was a good way of explaining it. And in reality, this just shows that the team behind GPIQ has been navigating this market pretty well. I mean, I should say really well because now, again, they are the best performer. But this is also a really important thing to think about, everybody. When the market shifts, different strategies perform differently. And that's why it's important to have not put all your eggs in one basket, is the popular saying. So right now, GPIQ is outperforming. Maybe in 3 months, we have TDAQ outperforming. The zero DTE strategy takes over. Maybe 3 months after that, we see it shift back to QQQI, which was the front runner for a very long time, and so on and so forth. That's why I personally, this is not financial advice, like to put a little bit into each and see how they perform. When one dips, maybe allocate more to it. And that's what is really fun about tracking all of these ETFs, as you see here on the channel. One thing I do want to mention as well, there's always the growth versus income argument. And because we've been in really hot markets, I want to showcase that since inception, GPIQ has underperformed the NASDAQ, but not terribly. You're looking at a 24, almost 25% versus a almost 0.5, 28.5% return. And again, it's because the market has been really, really hot. So a lot of important factors weighing in here, but I want to showcase another point about TDAQ, which we already touched on a little bit, and how this fund has been performing in comparison to all these other funds since its inception. I do want to mention some of these ETFs are new, right? Most of them are relatively new. The oldest one dating back is JEPQ to 2022. So we haven't seen a lot of market history with these, but I do love that they're coming out with new ETFs, new strategies. And if you're interested in finding out the best income strategies, new funds, all things like that, don't forget to like the video and to subscribe. It helps me out a bunch, and I do really appreciate it because then we can grow our portfolios together. Now, TDAQ. A zero DTE option, QDTE, a zero DTE option. So when I've shifted this to just the last couple of months, I basically went from the inception of TDAQ, which was September 4, which is when things started getting a little bit rocky. September wasn't a bad month, but it kind of showcased there's a little more fear in the market. The AUMs are all very different. 9 billion, 100 million, 3 billion, 33.71 billion, JEPQ being the largest by far, and then QDTE 883 million. Now, since September 4th, we see a very big difference in these funds. The QDTE and TDAQ, the zero DTE options, have been performing better than both QQQI and GPIQ, even with GPIQ strategy where they're able to write more in options because the market has been kind of trending sideways, which is so cool. I mean, that'd be a sweet job, wouldn't it? High stress, but that'd be a really cool job. But I'm not sure specifically if this zero DTE options, if these are the best long term. Only time will really tell. But QDTE and TDAQ are both maybe when we see things start to trend sideways, the zero DTE stuff works a lot better. I wouldn't be surprised. But another key point, in the last couple of months, JEPQ is the best performer despite having the lowest yield out of all of these. I mean, it has like a 6% yield compared to QDTE's like 40. That's a pretty massive difference. But one of the reasons JEPQ is performing so well right now is because the market has pulled a lot of these other NASDAQ funds down, especially if they had more exposure to the market like GPIQ and QQQI through their synthetics. It pulled their prices down, whereas JEPQ is just a little bit safer with those bank-linked notes. Now, it also is not increasing its yield. We're not getting more distribution from JEPQ, maybe a little tiny bit based on the price if the prices come down specifically, but JEPQ is just a solid choice when you're interested in something very safe. And that's why it's so large. It is a very safe option in comparison to a lot of these newer funds as well. You guys know that I'm a higher risk investor. I've got 30 years in the market. So I want to use a little bit of risk and even some leverage to my advantage. But I thought this was a really interesting flip we've seen in the market. And I want to know, are you guys tracking this? Was this something that you had already caught on to before I did? Let me also know if you are buying GPIQ or any of these other zero DTE options. What are we going for? Do we think this market is going to continue this trend, or is it going to shift back to our typical best performer, QQQI? Again, guys, don't forget to like and subscribe.